Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Esoteric Agenda. I'm Roger Hanson, your host, here with my co-host Mark Edworthy and my brother Robert Hanson. The other R that's on the screen is my OBS, which I am using so that we can have a little bit of a clear um, audio. Hopefully this works. So with that being said, we are going to get into tonight's topic. Tonight's topic is going to go further a little bit more from where we left off last week. We're going to be more precise. Last week was good, but we kind of went in a couple of different directions. Tonight, we're going to talk about Plotinus and the Great Year. And with the starting point of this, what I'm wanting to do is I want to start the whole conversation with just one question. And I want to hear what your guys' take is on this. Okay, Mark and Robert? Sound good?
Okay.
Okay, so my question is this. Does history breathe?
Oh, I didn't understand.
Did you hear what I said?
I don't understand.
No, not really.
Yeah, does history breathe?
Breathe?
As in taking air.
Does history breathe?
As in taking air, taking oxygen.
Oh, okay.
Does history breathe?
I'm not sure. No.
In what way? They're like breathing in the past, or?
Well, see, I'm the one that presents the question, and you're supposed to come up with your answer. That's how
it's
this
a weird
works.
question.
I just asked the question.
I
Does
don't.
history breathe?
I don't know. I don't know. That is a. I don't know.
History is just a concept. How can a concept breathe?
Well, that's actually a good question. So, what we have to understand is this: we usually think of time as like a straight line, where we have yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And then you have things like birth, life, and death. Okay. Now, history moves forward, right? We can't agree on that, right?
Yeah.
Right. And civilizations usually rise through progress, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Robert? You agree with that?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. So this idea, it feels obvious in today's world, right? But it hasn't always been obvious. You know what I mean? So for thousands of years, okay, many philosophers believe that time didn't move like an arrow, which an arrow moves straight. They believe that it moved like breathing, okay? You had expansion, contraction, you had birth, death, and then renewal. All right. Now, one of the greatest philosophers to explore this idea was Plotinus, who I had to ask you guys if you've ever heard of him before. And
the Knights Templar?
No, Plotinus.
Oh.
No.
Possibly rings a bell.
I've never heard of him.
Also, just to answer your previous question, do civilizations what's the word?
Do civilizations rise through progress? Do civilizations rise?
Could argue that civilizations could also stagnate.
Well, yeah, that's a good point.
And civilization after a while, it fades out too. We
Well,
have seen that.
remember how I put that? Civilizations rise.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They rise through progress. Not the fall of civilizations, which is a good conversation too. But somebody else has already stole that idea, and I can't freaking actually name
Okay,
it.
your specific question. So,
Yeah, but
rise with progress.
how?
Okay, yeah.
But like for civilization, like from like different types of time period, like certain civilizations, don't they go from one to it? It depends on how fast they mature too.
No, I'm
Wouldn't
talking
it?
about just the rise of civilizations,
Yeah.
just how they grow and they become civilizations. They rise through progress, right?
Yeah, through
Yeah,
progress,
the entire.
but there's
Couldn't you just argue that growth, rise, and is just a synonym for growth?
Right.
So,
Well, progress,
yeah.
growth.
yeah, that's
Progress.
yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
referring to. Because like with any progress, civilization built from progress and the intelligence of the progress.
And I see thousands of years for thousands of years, a lot of philosophers, like I said before, believed that time didn't move like an arrow, like we believe today. Okay, when it comes to time, all right, they believe that it moved like breathing. And when you said like growing, that would be expansion, and then contraction, where civilizations would shrink. Then you had birth and death, and then renewal. They believed in that. You know what I mean? And this is where we go into Plotinus. Okay, he was one of the philosophers who actually believed in that. Now, I asked you guys earlier who was Plotinus, and I know that you guys didn't know who he was, so I can tell you who this guy was. All right. So Plotinus was born around 204 AD in in Roman Egypt. Okay, and he studied philosophy in Alexandria before he eventually started teaching in Rome. Okay, now unlike a lot of other philosophers of his age, Plotinus wrote very little during his lifetime. His student, though, Porphyry, who I can discuss later on, he later collected his writings into what would become known as the Enneads. I have a hard time saying Enneads is how I used to say it, but it's not actually pronounced that way. But he wrote those books. Okay.
Okay.
Now with Plotinus didn't believe he was inventing a new philosophy. Okay. Now what he believed he was actually doing was recovering like the deepest meanings hidden inside of Plato's teachings. Okay. So for this reason, his philosophy became known as Neoplatonism. Not new Plato, rather a return to Plato's deepest ideas, basically. All right. So that's Plotinus. So if you ever hear anybody talking about Neoplatonism and they start talking about Plato, just understand that Neoplatonism isn't based off of Plato's teachings directly. They're based off of Plotinus's interpretation of Plato's beliefs. You know what I mean? So you're actually reading about Plotinus and Porphyry. Okay. So with that being said, the one is what I wanted to get into. This we mentioned this last week. We covered it a little bit, and I wanted to get more into that because that's more of the focus on what 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 this is actually about. Now, everything according to the one begins with what Plotinus called the one. All right. Now, the one can't be described. It has no shape. It has no size. It has no location, no beginning, and no end. All right. It's basically beyond existence itself. Now, anything that we can think about already belongs below the one. All right. And the one is absolute unity. Now, according to Plotinus, the universe flows outward. Okay. And here's where Plotinus introduces one of the most beautifulest ideas in philosophy. Okay. Creation isn't manufactured, it overflows. Does that make sense?
Not really, but carry on.
Okay. So the best way
Overflow from what?
the best way to explain it, okay, like how light pours from the sun, okay? Reality pours from the one. Does that make sense to you?
So, like the sun creates the fire from the sun and makes the light.
And reality pours from the one, like light would pour from the sun.
Yeah, like the
Are you
three.
talking about concept like God?
Yeah,
Like
like
a single.
like the sun is the thought, gets transmitted into fire, and then
And what was you saying, Mark?
I'm thinking more aesthetic. Yeah. You talk about a single God, aren't you?
Well, that's interesting because he thinks of it as the universe, okay? And the universe flows
Okay.
outward from the one, which when you hear me talking about like the Axis Monday, that would be their concept of the Axis Monday, the one. You know what I mean? In the
What is
universe.
this one? What is this one?
The one
The universe flows from.
now first off, let me go back to what I was saying. The one cannot be described, and it has no shape, it has no size, no location, it doesn't have a beginning or an end. It's beyond existence.
So again, you could talking about God or a God.
can I say? Oh, I think I know what he's. It's where the head of the dragon swallows the tail, or the snake swallows the tail.
That's the circle of the same, which is very interesting because that kind of intertwines into what I want to talk about when it comes to the great year. Okay, because there's too many things that kind of coincide with it, with the two of them, which that is a kind of a part of it. But yeah. Okay. Now, getting back to what I was saying, creation, according to Plotinus, isn't manufactured; it overflows. Okay, and that was what he felt. Just like light pours from the sun, reality pours from the one. Okay, and the one loses nothing. Okay, yet everything exists because of it. Now, this process, according to Plotinus, is called emanation. And that's where reality unfolds in layers. Okay? You guys with me on that?
Yeah, carry on.
Well, I would say like an onion. Onion has many layers, and you could use that as a reference to it.
Sounds good. It's pretty good. So, I guess the best way to describe the one when it comes to this would be like when you said God, Mark, that would be the divine intellect or the world soul. Some people have called it nature. Some people, especially in ancient times, they called it matter. Okay, especially the intellectual philosophers, they would always use the term matter. Not
Gaia would be another concept.
Well, Gaia is actually a deity. A lot of people don't realize that Gaia is actually one of the earliest deities worshipped, and I know a lot of people would try to disagree with that, but if you actually check it out, Gaia was actually a deity. You know what I mean? This concept is beyond deities. Okay, this is the universe basically. This doesn't have a good evil kind of concept. It doesn't have like things that happen in the universe according to this concept isn't done because of good or bad. It's just the way that the universe works. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Okay, like musical tones, like they say, each planet, each thing has its own tone within the universe.
Right. Now, according to the one, each level becomes more diverse, yet further from perfect unity when it gets farther away from the one. You know what I mean? So you have to understand that's something that they also believe as well. Now the world soul, that one is a little bit more it's a little bit more descriptive. I have to describe that a little bit more. Now this is where time enters the story basically when it comes to the world soul. Okay, so the world soul isn't like, it's not simply just life. Okay, it's the principle that gives motion to the cosmos. Without the world soul, nothing changes, nothing grows, and nothing moves. All right, everything we've experienced as time is the activity of the world soul expressing itself through creation basically.
Oh, like the god of India, where construction and rebirth.
Well, see, the thing about India and a lot of the Hindu beliefs and even some of the Buddhist beliefs is they they actually come out of Indo-European belief systems, which is older, and even the Greeks and the Phoenicians, the Romans, even all of them, they had Indo-European belief systems that they believed in. Like when we were talking about Gaia just now, okay? Gaia is actually originally from Indo-European belief systems, and that's where a lot of this comes from. All right. So that's where you get a lot of that, or a lot of this actually. So with all that being said, I also want to ask you guys: do you guys know what the Great Year is?
Explain that.
Oh, it's just
Huh?
Can you explain that? What is?
yeah,
What do
I
you
was
mean?
just looking at it. In scientific astronomy, it refers to the time required for the equinox to complete one full cycle, which can be between 25,772 years to 25,920 years.
Right. Okay, that's exactly what it is. Cool. Thank you for finding that, Mark. Now, when it comes to the ancient civilizations, okay, they actually noticed something that was pretty remarkable, which is what you just said. But they also noticed that the heavens repeat. They noticed that the stars return. They noticed that planets return, and then they noticed that seasons return. Everything appears to be moving in cycles according to what they're seeing, okay? Now, this inspired the idea that perhaps history itself also moves in cycles, like the Great Year, okay? So the Great Year became the name given to an unimaginable long cosmic cycle. Okay, so it became not just simply the movement of the Earth around the sun or the wobble of the Earth or anything like that. It became the movement of the entire heavens back to their original alignment. So, are we on the same page there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this way, I understand some, but
So for some ancient thinkers, when that alignment returns, history itself begins again, basically.
oh, repeats itself. You mean?
Right. So the thing of it is like the big question is did Plotinus believe history literally repeats? Okay. And
I would say yeah.
this is actually where Plotinus becomes fascinating, to be honest with you.
Oh, what?
This is actually where Plotinus actually becomes fascinating, to be honest. I mean, um, unlike the Stoics, who often envision an exact repetition of the cosmic history, Plotinus was less interested in like identical historical events than in the recurring movements of reality away from unity and back towards it, basically. So the Great Year for him is better understood as like a reflection of the cosmos the cosmos, and it was like a living order than than like a great clock resetting human history. You know what I mean? So the important cycle is spiritual before it's historical, according to him. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
So one question I have to ask you guys, okay, why does everything move in circles?
It's like a clock. It is. The circle represents the time.
What about you, Mark?
I was just reading this. The Great Year is typically divided into 12 distinct ages.
Mm-hmm.
So clock is 12 distinct points.
Sound familiar?
Analog clock. And yeah, just reading about the entire concept of the age of Aquarius and stuff. So yeah, the clock is carry on. I'm still in the middle of digesting this.
Well,
You're
I've got an idea.
I'm still.
The circle can stand for just not your time, but repeats the year. Years.
No, now think about the moon, the tides, the seasons, even the heartbeat or breathing, or even sleep. Okay, Then there's the water cycle, and even the galaxy rotates. Okay. Now, Plotinus believed that this wasn't accidental. Okay, and that circular motion represented perfection. So, and you need to understand, like, a circle has no beginning and no ending, and every point returns.
Well, he's not the only one. In India, that woman that with the round thing, it does the same thing. The woman, that one that destroys and then rebirth.
You're talking about Kali.
Yeah, they believe in that same thing too.
Mm-hmm. Kali is one topic I think we discussed the other day, where a lot of people think of the negative aspects of Kali, but they don't understand, like, Kali is the destroyer of worlds
And rebirth.
but he or she, whichever one, I'm pretty sure it's a female. But Kali actually destroys the universe in order to recreate it.
Yeah.
Okay, and a lot of people today, they take that as being like a Nietzschean point of view when you hear that, because that's the way Nietzsche felt. He felt that the universe was constantly being destroyed and then recreated. So you don't really hear much of that. But yeah, that's
Also, it's a very Christian. It's a Christian view, isn't it? Rebirth and that stuff, or even Buddhist. Buddhist.
Well, Buddhists mostly, but a lot of Christians have an issue. Like, we've had conversations with Tan where when you talk about ascending or resurrection, the only person who can resurrect it, of course, in his mind, was Jesus. You know what I mean? And a lot of Christians have a hard time with the concept that that ascending wasn't like just a Buddhist idea of ascension. Like, Jesus, when he came out of the tomb, literally ascended upward. You know what I mean? Physically ascended upward out of the tomb. According to the story, there were witnesses that seen him. You know what I mean? Ascending up into the air.
Oh, I mean, monotheistic religion. I mean, Islam has got the same sort of concept.
Mm-hmm. It's everywhere. Yeah. It's all in it. I mean, don't get me wrong, man. I ain't trying to badmouth Christians or people who are Muslims or anything, but, like, those are facts that are inside of your text. You know what I mean? These things are a part of it. It's, just because other religions emphasize it more than what you do, that doesn't mean that it's not in your text. No. Just wanted to put that out there, I mean, it's just like we went through and we were discussing Enoch. Okay. Enoch was what he ascended into heaven. Just like Jesus did. Elijah was taken up into heaven as well. So it happens quite a bit in Christian religion. Well, not quite a bit. I'm not going to say that. It does. It happens in Christian texts. I should watch how I say stuff. I apologize.
I see. All the time. Well, Christian Catholics gone to heaven, ascending to heaven.
So, with Plotinus, okay, the thing of it was he believed that perhaps, like, heaven, or he believed that, like, the heavens may move in circles because they most perfectly reflect like the eternal nature of the one, basically. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that would bring us to like the human soul. Okay, if you want to get more into it, like when we talk about like the human soul, Plotinus believed that the human soul mirrors the cosmos. So, as above, so below. You see what I mean?
I always heard from there's different types of what they can of the soul. You know, I heard that a person has two souls. One that goes when a person dies. One goes to heaven, and the other stays with the body. It does,
Yeah.
and that's
You're talking about something. I know what you're talking about, but like right now, I'm just talking about Plotinus and the great year and what his beliefs were. You know what I mean? So kind of keep that into consideration, okay?
all right.
So he believed that Plotinus believed that the human soul mirrors the cosmos, okay? Just as the universe flows outward from the one, the soul descends into material existence. Yet it also longs to return back to the one, you know? Now, this return, it doesn't require rockets or like secret knowledge. It requires contemplation, according to Plotinus. It also requires virtue. Beauty was a big thing for him. And he is also big on the pursuit of truth. So every genuine act of wisdom becomes like a step back towards unity, according to him.
Oh, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You're saying for every step goes back to what's unity?
Where you unite with the one, the
Oh, okay. So for every good thing,
the
for
world
everything
soul.
you do as representatives are put back to unity.
Right. Every
Is that
genuine act of wisdom becomes a step back towards unity,
yeah? Okay, okay.
to return to the one or the world soul, whatever you would interpret as. Now, like in alchemy, okay, you'll hear as above, so below. That's where this comes from. Okay, that's how Plotinus believed the human soul uh, mirrors the cosmos. That's where all of that comes from. You know what I mean?
So so how does he represent the soul? I mean, what does he believe in as the soul?
He believed that the human soul mirrors the cosmos, and he also believed that the universe flows outward from the one. Okay, so the soul descends into material existence, and it also wants to return back to the one or the world soul. You know what I mean? Or the Axis Monday. It wants to return back to it. Okay, and the only way for the soul to return back to the one, it is that you have to become involved in contemplation. You have to live a life of virtue. Beauty is important, and the pursuit of truth, basically. You know what I mean? Because he also, like I said, believed that every genuine act of wisdom becomes like a step back towards the one. Or the one would basically be the word unity. You know what I mean? The Axis Monday is what I usually call it.
So it's like going for every step you go back towards your God?
I wouldn't call it God.
Well,
But that could be
her-
an interpretation.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Oh.
yeah.
Hmm.
But if every step goes back, that would be good or bad as well. Which one would
Good.
that?
It's
Huh?
good. It's good.
Good. Okay.
It's not bad. Now, the farther away that you got from the one would be probably bad, but you're also thinking in a dualism kind of a way. You know what I mean? So duality is kind of an interesting thing in this whole aspect too, because um, and I mentioned this too to a few people. Like, you have to understand the difference between duality and dualism. Okay. A dualism is manufactured by man. We're the ones who create these ideas of what's good and bad, good and dark, and good and evil, that kind of stuff. We're the ones who create these things. You know what I mean? Whereas with duality, there's night and then there's day. Okay, neither one of them are in conflict with one another, and they actually complement one another. Whereas, you know what I'm saying?
At the same time, does that follow the thing of what you call it? Different looks of what you call different groups. Each one will have their own way of taking what you're saying, but processing it in a different way.
Oh yeah. Plotinus and these ideas actually influenced they influenced a lot of people across history. His ideas spread farther than many people realize. Like he influenced Saint Augustine. Then you had Pseudo Dionysius, and then it's also in Islamic philosophers. A lot of Islamic philosophers actually have his beliefs in it, and you can find tons of it in Jewish mysticism. You Now, the thing about it is like a lot of people don't realize it, but a lot of the Renaissance thinkers who were into the esoterics actually fell more into this category than a lot of the other stuff. You know what I'm saying? So you got a lot of Plotinus's belief systems that were into like the alchemy, and then the secret societies and the mystery schools.
Yeah.
The Hermetic traditions is what they basically call them. And like, you know how I'm always talking about like the modern in the modern world, you know, I always talk about how people talk about like the consciousness. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And you've heard me talk about it a few times. That also stems from Plotinus and the Neoplatonists. You know, so he appears almost everywhere, but you have to learn how to recognize a lot of his fingerprints. You know what I mean? If you don't know anything about him, you'll never recognize that he was there. He just kind of like blends into a lot of the stuff that you see and you hear when it comes to ufology and psych, parapsychology. That stuff has tons of it. Like me and you will sit and watch Ancient Aliens, okay? And I'll listen to those guys talk on there, and I'm like, my God, dude, they are just so saturated with this stuff, you know. Which, don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm not. I spent plenty of time debunking Ancient Aliens, but at the same time, they take and they cherry pick a lot of this information and they apply it to what they freaking want to present for their narrative, because of course all of this has to do with some ancient alien civilization that came to Earth and recolonized it and gave us DNA that freaking turned us into who we are today. But they don't want to mention the fact that Plotinus was talking about this stuff over 2,000 years ago and never mentioned aliens one time. So just figured I'd put that out there. Sound good?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So-
yeah, but like, that stone that they, the stone that in England where when the king he sits down on a chair, but under the chair they put that stone or under it to where the stone acknowledge, like they do with all the new kings when they take in England. I forget the stone. I can't think of the stone's name.
Scone.
Yeah, the
Scone.
stone scone. Yeah, it was actually shipped from Scotland down to Wales, I believe, first, wasn't it? It was,
Yeah, I think so.
and then I believe it's wherever they're crowned now, whatever area that is, and where they have it. But now that's actually a different part of esoterics. I covered it before when I was talking about asanas, and yeah, there's and I try to bring it up to a lot of people outside of this topic when it comes to the esoterics. If you're into the esoterics, you understand where the ascension comes from when it comes to the ascension of a king. Okay, there was this whole idea that was set up that kings were chosen by God. So whenever somebody became God, they became a direct representation of God himself. And that's not just the Christian God in England and all of this. This goes all the way back to Babylon. Okay. They all believe that. And the pharaohs, like the pharaoh was the direct incarnation of the god of Ra. Okay. And this is something that's been passed on from generation to generation. All right. This and it's really amazing how that whole story plays out because it's probably one of the oldest traditions that's been around. But they've always felt that way. It's nothing new. Even the Babylonians in
Did we sort of touched on this on Wednesday's show on the Fixins one. I just made the point that that's not so true in the Catholic Church because the Pope is the direct communicator with God, God's representative, and the Pope creates the kings, the monarchs.
Well, I
But
mean,
yeah,
even
apart from that.
even that though, I mean, like you take a look at how that whole process comes. Just because he's not mentioned as a king doesn't mean that it's not the same process. You know what I'm saying? Like it just
Yeah. My point was that the monarchs were appointed by him rather than by God.
Now, the weird part about a lot of this is like, and I always want to do this. I want to tie this into modern science because a lot of people think, oh, this is just rubber gibberish. This is any worth listening to. So what I try to do is I try to link this into modern science. Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting. Okay. So today we know that the universe, it's not static, okay? And we also know that stars are born and stars die, right? Right?
Carry on, yeah.
Okay. We also know that galaxies collide. We know that matter recycles itself into new stars and new planets. We also know that modern cosmology does not teach Plotinus's philosophy, but it does reveal a universe filled with cycles on every scale. Okay? So, for me, I think my philosophical question is basically this, and it remains open. Okay? Now, is cyclicity is the cycles of everything that we've been talking about just a property of physics, or does it point towards a deeper principle when it comes to order? You know what I mean? So bringing it back to like esoteric agenda, what makes Plotinus remarkable isn't like simply that you believe in cosmic cycles, because many cultures did. Okay, his contribution was asking what these cycles reveal about reality itself. You know what I mean? So, and perhaps the universe isn't like simply moving through time. Perhaps it's remembering and it's returning and it's seeking unity, basically. You know? So, whether one approaches this through like philosophy or theology or science, the question remains um, it remains really modern. You know, if nature continually returns to patterns of order, are those patterns just mechanical, or do they hint like at a deeper structure beneath reality, basically?
We're not saying with even mechanical, it can still be used as energy. You know, like create whatever happens, it creates like energy, like a thing that it repeats itself. You know, like you say, you can't destroy it, but it's gonna be there. But it just gets recycled to a different thing.
And see, and that's one of the things that I've always been talking, or I've been talking about lately, like the Axis Monday. All right, I drew a lot of that off of the Cosmic Egg, which is also affiliated with the One, which we've been discussing here, as well as the World Soul. Um, Dr. or Carl Jung referred to it as the God conscious, or the God conscience. Now, with me, I have a different approach when it comes to the cosmic weave. Okay, there, and it really is other people who came up with this concept. I didn't think of it, but I do have a different belief in it. Now, a lot of people will tell you that like this cosmic weave would be like a grid pattern that's set up with nexuses, where all this information through the Akashic records, supposedly, or the Akashic, which is actually Hindu, by the way. It's not buried under the frickin' Sphinx in Egypt. Okay, it's actually Hindu, I believe. But this is supposed to be freaking information that's bouncing off of this grid on this nexus, from one nexus to the other. And for me, I don't believe that. I believe that whenever freaking the nexus is actually just one nexus. It's called the Axis Monday. And all information goes to this Axis Monday so that it can be freaking changed into something new. You know, old information, old data that goes that goes from, you know, when a rock is destroyed or it crumbles, okay, or the amount of water the amount of data that's in the water flowing down a mountain, that all returns to this axis Monday. And
We're
everything.
not, we're not saying that as a person, your energy goes there when you pass away.
That's my whole point. That's exactly what I'm saying. And not only that, but ideas like the thoughts that you have in your head, that also returns to the axis Monday as well. Okay, and like whenever you look at Assyria. Assyria was a civilization and it collapsed. Okay, it was actually returned to the axis Monday too, and it in turn created something new, and that's why we ended up with new civilizations out of Assyria, just like with ancient Greece or ancient Rome. Okay, when Rome fell, it was recreated into something new, which would later become the Holy Roman Empire. You see what I mean? So even civilizations that fall and they disappear, they're actually returned to the axis Monday, and something new is created because of that information. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And this isn't like a consciousness that freaking determines what's good or bad, good or evil. It's just it does its function. You know what I mean? But you guys are getting real quiet, so I know you're starting to act like
Yeah, carry on.
Well, like with as they say, um, they say we got that the caveman's brain where we think aggressive and all that, but at the same time, that there could work with that there, what you call it, awakens other senses as well that follows that thing, where people learn to better control their selves. So, when that situation comes, how you get more aggressive or more where you want to do something really stupid, create harm and all that within within that within that way of thinking, it might help alleviate that.
Well, you remember when we were on DK show, right? And we were talking
Yeah.
about the world tree. Now, this is a good example of it, and I've also talked to Otto about this too when it comes to the lotus. Okay, now the lotus and the world tree is very spiritual because, like with the lotus, what it really represents is the the whole process of the Axis Monday. Okay, now with the world tree's roots is base down in the bottom. The roots are within the primordial realms of the Axis Monday, and this is where the primordial mud and the cardinal winds are at, and there's the water, okay, that's within the primordial, and when the winds begin to blow, what it does is it stirs this primordial freaking mud, and it creates freaking ground for the roots to freaking grow in. Okay, now that for that to happen, the primordial levels of the Axis Monday feeds off of the darkness, off of the sorrow, off of the pain, off of all of the bad things that we consider bad in the world. Okay, so when it comes to like these instinctual ways that we have as human beings, this is what the Axis Monday feeds off of. It feeds off of that instinctual animal instinct that we have. It thrives off of it. And what happens is those roots begin to grow, and they grow upwards. It begins to ascend. You take a look at the lotus plant. That's the way the lotus plant also works. It grows out of mud and muck in the water, okay? And it rises above that mud. It fights its way up, and it keeps its leaves above that water. And then what you have are the branches, and that's our realm. That's where we live within the Axis Monday, okay? This is our realm, and then past the branches and everything, you have the top, and that would be what you would consider the heavens. Okay, but everything starts down there at the bottom in the muck, in the mud, in the darkness, with freaking the suffering, the pain, the anguish, the human raw instincts. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
I said that to Jeffy once, and he literally.
Think of it like this: without your instincts and without that, it could lead you down a bad thing.
Well, I mean, the thing of it is like when you talk about that, that's the stuff people do not want to hear, because they want to believe that. Well, first of all, like the ancients believed that out of chaos comes order. Okay, and they also believe that good is order and evil is chaos. In today's world, that's what you'll hear most of them say. But the truth of the matter is they both are complementary. It's a duality where you can't have one without the other. Okay, even science talks that way about chaos, and especially when it comes to decay. You know what I mean? Entropy.
Order is there's like a different type of order too, an order of control too.
Well, control is a human thing. That's something we created.
Yeah, but that's the dangerous thing that is too. It's not so. That's the opposite of good. Or when that comes into play, that leads down to a dangerous road.
You can't really dictate good and evil when it comes.
Well, no, I'm not saying dictate. I'm just saying when that arises, it leads to problems.
No. Okay. When you talk good and evil, you're talking about something that was created by man. Okay, like humans have always murdered one another. Okay, sociopaths have existed way before the 20th century. Okay, these are human beings that have wandered the earth, and they have no consciousness whatsoever. They will murder people freaking just so they can see how they squirm. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that this is a dark truth that people don't want to understand, and then when you try to tell them that this feeds the primordial freaking realms of the Axis Monday, they're like, "Oh man, you are a psychopath. What are you talking about?" You know, and then it gets even crazier because of this horrible, miserable freaking part of it, freaking our world grows. We actually thrive off of this stuff. Okay? And that is something that most people do not want to believe. They do not believe.
Well, what I was pointing to as well is that if you look, you're like you said about psychopath, Roger.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing: the part of your mind, your brain, the animal. I would look and think that the aggressive and that part goes along with that to show the like an animal. An animal acts about the same way as that when it comes to cutting, where it hunts, pursues, and conquers it. like a person that's going to kill someone. They do their where they play, they look, and they pursue as a game and as a prey.
Mhm.
And they're like to me, the animal part, the caveman thing comes into play
Yeah, I
as
know.
well because it
Well,
follows
see,
the
the whole thing about it is like that's something that we try to, as human beings, we try to walk away from. That. We don't want to admit that we are actually a part of the animal kingdom. That somehow we're different. You know what I mean? If you look at like the Bible, you know, God gave us dominion over the animals, and He allowed Adam to name every single creature on the face of this planet. You see what I mean? So we're set apart from nature. We aren't like those beasts of the land. You know what I mean? But in reality, that's not true. We are animals. The only thing is for some reason we have this intellect that these other animals doesn't have, and I do find that to be really really interesting. The fact that we are capable of thinking the way we do, and I don't buy into this whole thing where because Mark believes this. He brought it up to me first about frying or cooking meat somehow made us so smart.
Well, I just said that was a theory. That was
Well,
a
I mean,
theory.
I just don't buy
It's a plausible theory.
Well, I mean, you know, think about it like this. How many times has people freaking fed their freaking dogs table scraps? You know what I mean? All throughout the time that we've been cooking over a fire. How many times have we given our dogs freaking table scraps? They should be able to sit down and play poker like they do in the freaking
Yeah, but
painters.
we've got enough advantage as well. Toes and fingers and thumbs
Fingers,
and
yeah,
stuff.
exactly. You
well.
know,
Trying to get a dog to play a piano.
that's
Remember,
what I'm saying. They should be able to. If it's fried food, they should be able to play poker, play the piano.
But they haven't got fingers or thumbs.
Well, they would be like us. You know, we were primordial Neanderthals and Homo
Yeah,
sapiens.
but we didn't start cooking until we went.
We had this cool toe. If you know what I'm saying, we had this cool toe where we could climb up trees, and that little toe could freaking grab onto the bark and help us stay on the freaking limbs without falling off. But because of evolution, we lost that toe. We lost that toe, guys. So we didn't evolve. We devolved from a perfect toe to the toe we have now that's useless. You know, and I've also like with Otto. Otto mentions like with the freaking. I don't know where he came up with this, but he believes that like freaking the what is it? It's the freaking organ inside of our body that's useless. The freaking not the bladder, but the no oh my god, the appendix. Okay,
Appendix.
he believes that the appendix was used so that when we ate grass, it could digest it. So so we have this appendix which is in us and that is useless and not used. And it was used before so that we could eat grass. Okay. And I don't know where he comes up with that. I just that is insane, dude. You know what I mean? But people come up with stuff like that, and they're you see, we're not according to evolution, we're not supposed to degress. We're supposed to or devolve. We're supposed to evolve. We're supposed to move forward. We're supposed to evolve as a species. Losing a freaking toe because of your environment or frickin' retaining a frickin' organ that isn't useful doesn't fit into that narrative, you know what I'm saying, of evolution. So
Well, I will say real bad in animal time, the 7 year monkey war and 1920 at the railroad construction in Africa.
well, you're
The
talking about the
lions there
lions, yeah.
were so precise on how they did it that they outmastermind over 300 people, and all that was left was 20 people in the whole process. The two lions were so smart they wiped out the whole place.
The whole crew. Yeah, they
Okay,
actually made a movie out
Actually,
of that.
yeah.
I don't think you're thinking of the appendix. The appendix is there to store bacteria to aid in the use of digestion.
Whatever. That's like a generic, really.
So,
To store bacteria,
Otto's
dude.
point is sort of correct.
To store bacteria, seriously, dude. So we have the appendix so that we can just store bacteria for digestive purposes.
So that
that
it was
what you're
supposed
trying?
to do what, Roger?
It was supposed. The appendix is apparently there so that it can store bacteria to help in the digestive process.
Okay, and what was the bacteria supposed to be used for?
To aid in the immune system and for the purpose of digestion.
A what?
The purpose of digestion.
Digestion.
I just don't buy it. You know. Not now that right there. Is that off of recent findings, or has it been known for quite a long time? Because I've always been told that they have absolutely no idea what the appendix was actually supposed to be used for. You know.
Okay. From what I'm seeing here, articles dating back to 2013.
2013.
Yeah.
Okay, so they've come out with some cool information that I'll check out. That actually would be something for good reading. I want to find out what this is about. I haven't really looked into the appendix. Now, the last time I even kept up on that was back in like the 1990s. I know that much. So, and that always did stick out to me.
Yeah.
But
I'm not really sure if this whoever came up with this.
I don't buy it. I seriously don't. Especially with the toe. That was a big one. You know what I mean? Because like the human toe, if we came from freaking the ape family, we should have had a toe that we could use for climbing.
Well, if we don't use, it's same with the tail. The human tail. We don't use that anymore.
There's that group that has 5 fingers still today.
6 fingers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or, well, thumb and 5 fingers. You're right.
Oh well, 5 fingers and thumb. It's not just a mutation.
We can get into that, but we are at an hour and 10 minutes. I have ran out of talking points. We were supposed to be talking about Plotinus and the Great Year. So we are going to end this episode on that, and we will come back and talk about cool and interesting topics like we've been discussing now for the last few minutes. This has been a good conversation. But I'm going to end this, and we will freaking come back later and do another episode of this. I do want to do a few more esoteric agendas. I know I've been falling behind on the year with this, but I want to pick up on it and get more of it done. I want to thank you, Mark and Robert, for being on the panel and being my co-host, Mark, and much appreciation. This has been probably the most interesting month so far because of all the chaos. So I just want to say I really appreciate you being here, man. I really do. So with that,
out of chaos come order.
Exactly. So with that, I'd like to know if you would be willing to give your socials so that people can find out how to get in touch with you if they wanted to.
If you want to, I'm on minds.com under the username Medworthy.
Okay, and with me and Robert, you can find us on minds.com as well at Roger_Hanson. We're both on minds.com or Elements Matrix at Rogers Hangout, as well as on Teams at Rogers Hangout. Now, this also is a part of Strange Stories, and which is on minds.com, and that's the group on there you can check out if you want to get involved with the chat and join the stream if you like. Also, we are on Discord at the Wonderful World of Weirdness. Now, you can go on there and be a part of the community as well. But we also do our editing. We edit this video to where you can watch the full episode of it, or at least an hour at a time of it, on Strange Stories on YouTube and on Rumble. And YouTube, you can also watch 15-minute clips of this episode on there on the Wonderful World of Weirdness. Actually, I think I do an hour at a time on Rumble as well. But if you don't want to watch them edited out and cleaned up, you can still come on YouTube, Rumble, and Kick and Twitch and watch the live streams that we do every Friday on my main accounts on all those platforms. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this show, please like, subscribe, share, make comments. We'd love to hear your feedback down in the comments section. I hope you have a good day, good evening, good morning, whatever time of day it is for you, and we will catch you again next week. Thanks for watching.